Personal growth is the key to professional growth. On today's show, we are joined by Louie Herron, who is the business coach, entrepreneur, and author of Driven by Fire, to learn how investing in your growth can take your business to new heights. Thank you so much for joining us once again on the show, Louie.
How are you, Jim?
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of great responses from the last time that you were on, so thank you for that. What are some of the practical strategies or habits that individuals can adopt to prioritize personal growth within their professional lives?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, there a lot of things run through my mind, but one of the most things, obviously, if we're going to lead anybody, we got to lead ourselves. And I think leadership growth is personal growth, personal development. And so I think, when we analyze, what we do on a daily basis from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, I think is critical. I think having a morning routine, again, some of these things sound very cliche, but the reality is I think it's mindset and habits, right? So the habits are really going to form exactly how we behave. If we want to have good behaviors and consistent behaviors, we've got to have good habits. And so I think that if we can start our day the same way, whatever that looks like, I think there's 4 core areas. There's body, being, balance, and business. That's what I coach and teach. That's what I always talk about is your body, right? It's your health, your wellness, your mental stability, your stress, your sleeping, your exercise, the food intake, eliminating sugars, watching alcohol intake, obviously no substances if possible. Your being is your spirituality. I believe, for me personally, you got to have a connection to God, whatever God is for you, the individual. But there's something greater than us. And there's a sense of humility that's developed within us. We can let that ego go so we can really open up. And I think a relationship with God is critical. And then your balance, that's the posterity, your children, your spouse. I think most of us know, and a lot of my coaching is to men, but it doesn't exclude women. But, the reality is if the home life is not right, it doesn't matter what goes on, especially in the mind of a man, we're not right? Yeah. And again, you obviously have Bridget. I mean, obviously when things are genning and running great, and obviously with my partners, the same thing. She seems to always have the ideas. I just have to listen sometimes, right? And I have to convince myself that, that I have blind spots. But when I can make that relationship work, I feel like I'm 6 foot tall and 8 foot wide, and I think all 3 of those components affects the last one, which is business or your bank account. All right. And we all want to have that legacy we leave behind, and we want to get at, and I think when it comes to leading yourself in leadership, especially financially, money doesn't make you happy, but I've been broke and I'd rather have a little bit of money.
Yes.
But I will say that with that said, the money portion allows you to continue to be creative and imaginative. If anybody listening is in survival mode, check to check, week to week, just getting by, savings are depleted, that's a bad space. I've lived in that space before. When that happens, as a leader, an internal leader, you can't create. You can't imagine big things because you're like, hell, I got to get to the next step.
That's right.
Right. So I think a focus on those is critical when you're talking about growing yourself and that affecting your business.
Sure. What are some common obstacles business owners face in prioritizing personal growth? Sometimes it's the most important thing, as you just mentioned, but it's the last thing on their list that sometimes they never get to.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, the only people that need a doctor is sick people, right? So it's like it takes somebody to be sick to actually go to a doctor, right? Yeah. Which again, we're not working on preventative maintenance, but we'll talk about correctional when we need to. So I think for leaders, for individuals that are trying to grow personally, I think the critical thing is you have to make time to make sure you're resting, you're exercising, and you're eating well. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect. Right. I focus on expansion, not perfection. You're not going to be perfect. But the reality is if we let things go and let's go and they keep going and we don't have time and I don't have time for this,
right,
you get stressed out. I mean, look, I've operated automotive dealerships, right? And I've owned dealerships. And I can tell you being in that chair, it's very easy to work. And my life was simply, I worked my fingers to the bone. I hung out my family. They talk about the 5 closest people you hang around is who you become.
That's right.
Well, I would challenge a lot of people listening. You probably don't even have 5 because you work and come home. You don't even have 5 people.
That's right.
And that's why I think disciple groups, that's why I think men's groups, or even for ladies, a certain group, that's why that's vital, because you need community. You need somebody that's on your level or hopefully even higher than you, so you have something to strive for and move towards. And, again, that's just overall health. It affects your mental health, which obviously will affect and help you optimally when you're in your place of business and performing there.
Yeah, for sure. And people need that right now, especially coming out of 4 years of COVID. There's a lot of businesses that have changed. and their landscape and their goals and their objectives. And I think everybody has shaken it off by now, but it has changed a lot of lives, and it's changed a lot of objectives and goals that entrepreneurs and small business people have, right? And salespeople, for that matter.
Yeah, you have a really interesting thing going on right now. You have a lot of individuals that are in business that have made a boatload of money in comparison to what they used to make in 2009, pre-19. They've made this money. We all knew it wouldn't last forever, but we got boats, we got cars, we traded up houses, we've done certain things.
Sure.
Now all of a sudden we're back to kind of margin compressed. Supply is now is of surplus, and now all of a sudden we've got to fight to put deals together, to send proposals to people, in the basic fundamentals, whether it's personally or business, have to be employed.
That's right.
And so to reignite that, right? Because that's what has to happen. It's like we have to reignite. So where do we start? We start with a purpose, and we start with passion. Like if you've made some money, you've saved some money, do you still have that fire in your belly? Do you still have that drive? Or do you have a little cushion? And now, well, guess what? The cushion doesn't last forever. So you got to make some choices. And then you have others that are deaded to their eyeballs, and now they're stressed as can be. It still requires the purpose to get moving again and having that fire to make something happen.
Yeah, no question about it. Dave Anderson, who's a great trainer out there and written a number of books, he says prosperity drains urgency. And I couldn't agree more, right? When you're doing well and you've got a big bank account, it just drains that urgency for you to go out and get that next deal right away, right?
100%. I often say to a lot of the guys that I coach too, as I tell them all the time, that when a man doesn't reflect, he often projects, right? So my thinking is, we talked about some basic fundamentals. I think every individual should take the time, and it's a challenge for me, but I do my very best to keep this up, is you've got to take the time to process and write down. Things happen to you during the course of a day. Things happen to you during the course of a week, whether it's once a week or once a day in the morning time, in your quiet time. You got to reflect. You got to, if we don't, we're not going to learn from these things. And if we don't learn from them, that's that karmic cul-de-sac. We keep repeating them, whether it's with your spouse, same argument, same communication, whether it's with your employees, it's the same conversation. I've already told them. These are the things that to get past and beyond are those basic fundamentals of working on self and self-mastery.
No question about it. And now is a good time to be in business, right? I mean, contrary to what you might hear out in the media, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on or what you tune into, business is good. Low unemployment, obviously the rates aren't exactly where we'd like them to be. However, they're not that terrible either. And there's a lot of businesses that are doing very, very well, a lot of products being sold. And so now's a good time to get out there and get after it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think now's as good a time as ever. I think what's changed the game is technology. And so I think a good starting point for a lot of folks, like I just turned 50, right? So I have to be on top of the technology age, because there's things with AI and things going on a daily basis that are rapidly going, that are opportunity to make a boatload of money in whatever product or service you're selling.
That's right.
I don't think that we've ever had a period like this. So yes, now is a great time. And quite honestly, again, I'm in automotive dealerships. People are still buying cars. I mean, people are still buying cars. They're much more shrewd, and the margins are coming down, but people are still wanting to buy something from somebody.
That's right.
So absolutely, if somebody's out there and they're trying to get started and they've got the fear of maybe not now, the reality is not now is never an answer, because it's never good. It's never a great time, No
question about it. Louie Herron, who is the entrepreneur, business coach, and author, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We very much appreciate it, and love to have you back to do a follow-up to see how things are moving on.
Love to be back. And 100%, I'd love to come back. And again, Jim, you can check out my podcast, the Louie Herron Podcast, if you like. We talk a lot about business, leadership, sales, and life's lessons is what that podcast is about.
Awesome. We'll show all the information on the screen here for you to connect. And right below this video, there'll be a link to it and a link to how to get a hold, or a link to, I should say, Louie. So if you got any questions for him, feel free. So thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Louie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thanks.